China paint, is there a way to get China paint onto a plate that would be extreme? And at the time, I had a bunch of friends. I was living in Atlanta. I had a bunch of friends that played paintball, and I didn't like playing paintball at all. I did it once, and I grew up around guns, and having people shoot at me and having paintballs whiz by me totally freaked me out. Also, I didn't like to be hit by them at 100 miles per hour and the bruises that they cause. But I started thinking about ways to get China paint into paintballs. And I had to experiment for about 9 months. And finally I figured out that if I took like a 20 gauge veterinarian syringe, I was able to suck the paint out of paintballs, and I was able to put my own China paint or India ink or whatever into the paintballs. And so this is red China paint that has been fired at the plate, which is over 100 miles per hour. And one time when I was on a residency in Hawaii, an amazing student named Dustin Miyakawa made this video of my process, complete with soundtrack. So I used to lose 4 out of 5 of the paintball or the plates that I shot at, and now I will lose maybe 1 out of 5 or 1 out of 8.
How do you choose what blanks you're going to buy?
Sometimes it's up to the thrift store. I really like just a blank coupe plate from Jing de Zhen, the kind that you use on collector plates. So this is something that I told the last class too, and this is where I get, I don't know, a little bit Tony Robbins-y or infomercial-y about an artist's life and finding a future in the studio. So looking at my work, it's obvious that I have a good time making my work. I enjoy humor, I enjoy being subversive, but I can tell you that up until the point that I started doing paintball plates 8 or 9 years ago, I was results oriented. So I was sort of cracking myself up, thinking of the ideas for things, but I didn't exactly find tons of joy sitting in the studio and sandblasting and China painting and putting on decals. I would much rather kind of be reading a book or doing something else. And that's really no way to be able to conduct a long-scale artistic career. Every artist that I know who has a professional career has an element of making their art that brings them joy. The act of painting, the act of sitting at the potter's wheel. And it probably sounds like no duh to you when you're hearing me say that, but I think if you look at people who are in school who are considering a life in the arts, a lot of people aren't really considering how that's sustainable long term. So one of the things that I urge all of you to think about is your own personality type. So are you a person who likes precision and enjoys the act of doing like very precise things? Do you enjoy the speed and the danger of the potter's wheel? How can you sustain a career that really sort of exploits that sense of joy? And for me, firing China paint at plates with a paintball gun was a way for me to get my mojo back and a way for me to discover how to play in the studio. So I enjoyed the act of, everyone should enjoy the act of like firing paintballs because it's really, really fun. Not so fun to have them coming at you. But then I started taking the plates and organizing them and arranging them and putting into bigger compositions. And that was amazing for me. It really gave me the sense of playing in the studio without having to worry about shades of meaning and coming up with text and thinking about how all of this gets integrated into my career. I've done some paintball events that were participatory, where people were able to come up and I was injecting Japanese Japanese ink into paintballs and letting people make their own Japanese Zen paintings out of black ink. So it was performative, it was participatory, and I think when I think about my own personality, one of the things that's important to me is that the art feels somehow a little bit subversive, a little bit naughty. So for me, the act of learning China painting and leaving my classroom where we were doing sort of round brown pots and taking up with a group of China painters felt very subversive. There was something that went across gender norms. There were things that went across the norms of what was considered art or proper within the ceramic studio. So it's interesting thinking about the thing that is going to provide you sustenance as an artist.